Hello and greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Max on Color. And today, I am accompanied by a very special guest. She is a very experienced post-production supervisor. So, what is a post-production supervisor role? I mean, that is this show is all about. We're just gonna learn about post-production supervisions, and we'll ask Cecilia to teach us about post productions and share her experience. Speaking of Cecilia, I haven't introduced her yet. So yeah, my guest speaker for today is Cecilia Belliz, an Argentinian post supervisor based in Chile. Cecilia, do you want to tell us about yourself a little bit?
Hi, Maximus. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Greetings. Thanks for having me. I'm a producer, colorist, editor, and post producer supervisor from Argentina. I've been working since 2005, primary in color grading and editing, mostly color grading. And that takes me to post supervision because all this background I have. So I'm based in Chile since 2014. And actually, I'm also work with Blackmagic DaVinci Results here in Chile as a trainer, as a certified trainer, and also in Animum 3D. I teach the lessons of the course of color correction in DaVinci Results. So that's a little bit about me.
That's
And my
amazing.
latest works were in post supervising, working from pre to the final broadcast. So we can say I have a little bit of experience in the area.
A little bit. I mean, she showed me some snippet of her presentation today, and it's like really excited me because there are plenty of like gems that I think we are all gonna benefit from it. And doesn't matter if we are like a one man team or something like that. You probably ask, "Hey Max, I'm just shooting by myself, and I'm just grading by myself, delivering it by myself, and why do I need to learn about post supervisions?" Well, if you want to know how Netflix and Amazon did it, you probably can benefit to learn some tidbits from the presentations, some experience sharing that Cecilia will present with us today. Speaking of that, before we jump and do the presentation, Cecilia, I hope you don't mind if I steal like 5 minutes just to do the small housekeeping, right? I know that you
Be
guys
my
are
guest.
excited about this, but let's do a little bit housekeeping. So if you're into webinars and if you want to learn more about all the Maxon products, because there are plenty of Maxon products in Maxon One. We have webinars like pretty much almost every day, and you can simply go to maxon.net/events, and as you can see, we have ZBrush Live, we have Maxon Color, and also we have VFX and Chill, and also as the trainer and also the mystifying post productions, everything that you need all in one website. And as you click the event, you can see that there are links that will guide you into the live events. So this the second one is that the one that I want to share with you is that if you're new to the show and if it's like your first time joining the show, you know that you can get a free T-shirt. And those free T-shirt, you can follow the link that you see in the chat or in the screen right now. You can just go to that link, and you will be asked for a code. And the code for today is Zebras and Substance, all capitals. And you can, but by using that code, you can enter the shop and then get any one of the merchandise that you see on your screen. And it will be free of charge. All you need to pay is just like a small shipping cost. And you probably ask, is the tutorial, is the webinar recorded? Don't worry about that. All webinars that is hosted at Maxon Training Team is recorded and it is available for rewatch. If you want to rewatch them, you can go to YouTube and type in Maxon Training Team, and there you'll be able to find the video, the recorded video. And what is nice is that my dear colleague Dr. Sasi will put a timestamps on that webinar. So if you want to just skip ahead to a topic that you really love, you can do that. All right. One more thing, because this presentation is like the presentation that you are going to hear from Cecilia is like really jam packed. There are plenty of informations, and probably if you're curious like me, you probably want to write a note, right? And sometimes writing note while attending presentations can, bothers some people a little bit, me included. Don't worry about that. You can just join and tune in to the presentations, and if you want to take a note, you can download the presentations as PDF, and it is available for download in the Dropbox links that I am um, uh, copy and pasting it to the chat. So if you go to that link, you will be able to download the presentations as a PDF. So that's it from my side. And Cecilia, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I'm a little bit nervous, so
Oh,
I
don't
hope
don't
you
be,
can
don't be.
understand that, because it's a huge subject and we
It
will try
is.
to talk about it in 1 hour with this slide and some notes. Everything I will tell you in English, it's taken from two blogs that I guess Max will share with you also. So
Absolutely.
in order to you to, I don't know, read or get deeper into the subject, because I I tell again, it's pretty huge. So what do we know about post-production? um, Most of the times people thought that post-production is what comes at last. We pre-product, we shoot, and then we post-product. So the most of the times we will hear the phrase "fix it in post." Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Fix it in
I think I
post?
think Diego and I even have the T-shirt
Yeah, fix it on
in
set.
post.
No,
Yeah.
fix it on set, not in post, because this is always a very expensive phrase and decision to make, because there will have no budget allowance made, and more often than not, production has spent any financial reserves in order to achieve shoot costs. It's
Yeah.
most of the times that's what happens. And this will affect all your budget bottom line. Every time you say fix it in post, you are adding schedule and budget to your bottom line, because we tend to think that post it what comes at last. But post production starts with pre production. So we were talking about in this presentation about the relationships a post supervisor must have and made in the pre-production, also about the specifics and technology, all the information we must gather around through the pre-production and the shooting in order to have a robust workflow, also about the budget and the schedule and the balance we must do until the post-production arrives, because many issues would arise during the shooting. And we'll talking about what must happen during the shoot in order to post-production to be fluid.
So
It's
everything
okay,
in
it's everything
post
good. Yeah.
productions, everything in post productions is actually have an impact. Everything in productions or pre productions actually have an impact in the post productions, right?
Yeah, indeed it is. So the first we must talk about is what is a post supervisor, because it's a brand new role.
Yeah.
And most of the people mm, doesn't care about it, and or doesn't want it at all. It happens to me many times,
Yeah,
as you say, I edit, I shoot, I color grade, I do everything. I also do
exactly.
everything. So,
Why do I need a post supervisor, right?
well, because when we do everything, most of the times we are doing small projects, you know, maybe a little commercial or a little animation for a friend, or I mean, in small project or indie projects, we most of the times do everything. But in big projects, we need a person who provides both the creative and technical information required to achieve the director's vision of the script in terms of general post production, such as editing, music, VFX, effects, color correction, found footage, film emulations, archival. I mean, the whole look and feel of a series or a feature film, it's in hands of many areas that must get together
Exactly.
somehow,
So
you know?
those disciplines and those steps, different steps in the productions and post productions, has to agree on one thing.
Exactly. Most of the time, people who work on shootings, they just shoot, you know?
Yeah,
They go and made their 50 or 60 or 100 days of shooting, and they say goodbye and go home. And we had to clean the mess in post production because there wasn't a VFX supervisor, or it wasn't the DOP, or the clack or slate was bad addressing. I don't know. There are many issues that we must take care in post production, just because fix it in post,
yeah,
So the post supervisor is also the person will that budget and schedule all this work with the post production producer. That is another role, very important. There are many producers, executive producer, unit producer, and there's also a post production producer. This is a person who mainly contact the vendors, the post houses, the QC round trips, and all all these items. They put it together and design a schedule and a budget for it for the executive producer, but the post supervisor must work with him along together all the time in order to adjust this schedule and budget. Because as we will see, also schedule changes every day, all the time during a shooting. So it's a point. Well, yeah, Max.
so having somebody to orchestrate between like all those things that going on, it must be like very critical, right? Cecilia,
Yeah.
before we move on, do you
Hmm.
have any how do you call it, time to answer questions? Because I see in the chat there's
Yeah.
like really nice questions coming from Simon Walker. Simon, thank you very much for joining. Glad to see you here. And what is the good career path to become a post production supervisor? And what are the good disciplines to study or to gain the experience to be a post production supervisor? So, if I'm new into the industry, what should I study, and how do I enter the industry as a post production supervisor? That is.
Well, my advice is to start always in production. Production is the first step to become a post production supervisor, because in production you will see each area and each item, and in terms of scale and budget, that it's really important to link it with director's vision of the script, where with communicate with each area. It's the first area you must start, I guess. Production.
So being involved in the productions, so that would be like the very critical path to
Yeah,
craft.
yeah, and then step into editing,
I
from
see.
production to editing, and with those two areas, you can start.
As Simon
Production is the
just
key.
Yeah, as Simon just confirmed that productions is key. And
Yeah,
there's also a follow-up question from Tangletown Post. If you want to look for a gig as a post-production supervisor, where do you normally look?
a gig. Sorry, what is a gig really?
If
Sorry.
you want to get a job as a post-production supervisor,
Mm,
is there any like post or forum or community?
not yet. In fact, we are trying to create something like that, because right now we have trouble even in involving the role in some productions. So there is not really a gig, but maybe in LinkedIn, or I don't know, in English, I don't have much idea.
Hmm.
Maybe no, but not for getting a job.
Yeah,
I got there just by working many, many, many years as a colorist who does also the post producer role. So,
so most likely the post productions role coming as you encounter some issues or some problem during the post productions itself. So that
yeah,
that means like being in the productions is the key, like Simon
yeah,
pointed out before, because it's like it is not really a job that got posted, right? It's
no,
just the job that coming out of the necessity, right?
yeah. And
I
most of
see.
the times they confuse. There are three roles that are in some productions, they are fairly separated, but in some others they are not. So there's a little bit of confusion between what is a post-production supervisor, what is a post-production producer, and what is a post-production coordinator.
So
There are,
what are the different?
yeah, the difference, it's mostly in the creative part of the work.
Mm,
You know, the post-producer, it's more involved with budgeting and schedule and get things done. you know
I see.
the post producer coordinator can work only in a post house, can coordinate only the projects from a post house, or of an entire project, or a prodco, you know but the
Yeah,
post producer supervisor is kind of an advisor also,
I see. So
a
you
creative
do really need,
advisor. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a creative advisor between the creative and technical areas of
exactly.
production.
That's what I just want to say. I think probably a post-production supervisor is a more technical role that involved in the post-productions house, right?
Yeah, the coordinator, it's mostly the person who gets into the edit bay and say, hey, episode 1 is ready, we have the raw cut, we have the log cut. And the supervisor is mostly watching everything and saying things like, this is not the LUT we must use, or here this is a dead pixel, this went past the QC, you
I
know
see. Yeah.
but in small productions, most of the times it's one person to do it all.
Hmm.
So I understand why is the confusion, where the confusion radicates.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
So, any more questions?
So far so good. I think we can move on.
Okay. Well, mm, mm. we must work. I was saying, so design and adjust budget, budget and schedule. It's one of the tasks. Work with director, producers, and crew. You know, we must have a strong relationship with the crew. And that's why it's important to make a difference between the supervisor and the producer or coordinator, because sometimes no, most of the times the crew never get in touch or involved with anything that has to do with post-production. But the post supervisor must be in touch with them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also design and apply the correct workflow from the camera to the screening, from the script, I say, to the screening. It's one of the works of the supervisor.
I see.
It's clear. It's
That
making
is very
sense.
clear. Yeah. So all the workflow that is actually designed by the post-production supervisor, right? So how do you want to conform it, or for example, and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
moving between VFX and grading and so on. All those are probably like designed by you as a post-production supervisor. Will you break down some of the tips for that? I think you're gonna talk about that later, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, cool.
Tips for the workflow?
Yes.
Oof. Well, the first answer for that is there's no key.
I see.
Because no, there are two keys, and we will talk about that later. But each production has its own workflow. You know?
Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you there, but Diego just mentioned that he also worked as a post supervisor too, and
Yeah.
he understands the struggle defending the role, and the fact that supervisor should start in the pre-productions. Maybe that's a good T-shirt slogan instead of "fix it on set, fix it in pre-productions."
And that's why the gate to the post production supervising is production first, because as soon as you know, or the more you know about production, the more you can pre-product, and you can think about many things that you will need
Yeah.
further. So, well, as Diego was saying, the post producer supervisor must start when the first log versions of the script are ready, you know?
Mm-hmm.
In the first reading, a post production supervisor, uh, for example, will approach to the key points on your post workflow, such as how many episodes or seasons will be, or if is it a period show or movie or series, is it
Yeah.
action, is it drama, is it non-scripted, because non-scripted, it's a whole different world. We will talking mostly about what scripted world is,
Yeah.
mostly feature films, short films, series, but documentaries are another world.
Yeah. I see.
So, and well, there are, sorry, I'm reviewing my notes.
No problem.
So, I forgot. And some of the main responsibilities of the post supervisor are also working along with copyright and legal areas
Oh wow. Okay.
and archival, licensed music, different found footage or archivals that we must buy or use or copyright, you know. All of this is also part of the responsibilities of the post supervisor, and they are no little points, because they could break all your budget and schedule. If your editor is working with some archival that found around YouTube,
Yeah.
well, that could be a huge problem for your schedule and budget. Well, questions?
Well, I have a questions,
Yeah.
because it seems that collaborations and communication seems to be like a big part of your role, like Cecilia, because you're
Mm-hmm.
working with a lot of team from different discipline. And how do you handle that? Is there any tips for us for working effectively with different people involved in different step of post productions?
Well, the key is always to be friendly and let them know, I mean, understand that you are there to help and not to cohort,
Yeah,
to restrict
yeah,
their creative possibilities. Because people tend to think that post supervisors are there to say, no, you can't do that. No, you don't do that. And it's not like that. But
I see.
on the contrary, you have to, and that's why the creative part is so important, because when you read the script for the first time, I will show you briefly a script example.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a script.
Mm-hmm.
You are reading it, and you have to approach all the points you think could be a problem, or for example, VFX here, brown, blue colors, that you, how they will be represented on screen,
I see. Yeah.
with which camera and why that camera. And the studio will send you a list of specs of the image they want. So how do you get that image to them? How will you construct that image?
I see.
you know these are some of the different points that could arise from a first reading of the script. And
And
there
then you
are
can also decide regarding the VFX process there, right? How
we,
it's normally handled.
well, normally, mm, in an are you asking the ideal world or the real world?
Well, yeah,
Because
that's
there are
probably
two
my
different
burning question.
approaches to that.
That's probably my burning questions at the moment. I mean, if whenever you are working in a big project that involve VFX and grading, how do you manage that? Um, do the VFX coming first and then grading later, or is it the other way around? Do you need to like normalize all the image, make it how do you call it? Display revert in the display revert state, making look correct, and then having a VFX on that, or is there like a color management framework that you guys use, or how do you manage that? Is it like, or is there any, especially when a show has its own look. Like for example, we know that in grading, normally we work with a show LUT, right? Like the one LUT
Hmm.
that determine the look of the show. And is the same LUT being used, for example, in the VFX as well, or how normally how does normally the workflow looks like?
Well, really, and it's a little bit of all of that. But
I
for
see.
example, about the show lot, there's a point. There's not show lot. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
you will create as many show lots you need for set, for
Yeah.
example, because one show lot wouldn't be good for all your settings.
Yeah.
So a show light for night, for day, exteriors, interiors, different times of the year, if it's summer or autumn or fall. So we will have many show lights. That's one of the points. The other
That's a really nice point. Yeah.
the
No
other
taking.
point, yeah, the other point is that on VFX we used to work on a linear color space,
Mm-hmm.
and also in cameras, we have linear color space, but not in color grading. In color grading, we work with log.
And log, yes.
So uh, it's fundamental for the VFX supervisor and post supervisor to be on set when the VFX are being shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will work in the best workflow in depending on the kind of effect of
Nice.
VFX.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the workflow will vary, because one of the points I will talk about is that you can never know in pre-production how many VFX shots will be on your show.
Mm.
You can approach to that. You can make a pre-breakdown, as we are watching in the example.
Yeah.
By reading the script, you can approach to a first breakdown and unlock some scenes specifically. But at the end, the number of VFX shots will increase radically.
So you do really tailor the workflow based on the project that you have. So with that being said, probably there's no same two projects that that can use like exactly this is like the textbook workflow and we will use it. Everything has to be like modified or tailored based on needs, right?
Yeah, the key is
Yeah.
that we start at the end. That's the
Hmm.
key for any workflow. Let's see. Well, it's a little bit messy, my presentation. I
No
have it
problem.
all organized, but in order of the questions,
Yeah.
we are going on. For example, we were talking about the workflow. This
Yeah.
is a standard workflow. Yeah. For example, we have only two cameras and one sound recording. Yeah.
Yes.
We have a DIT and two backups.
Hmm.
We have also a transport drive that goes to the post house.
Yeah.
We don't have on set dailies. This is not all right,
Okay.
because Colette did the dailies on the post house,
Hmm.
and she distributes the dailies into this other into the editing room. Yeah, to the
Yeah.
editors. Dailies to the editors. To the server, and the server to the editors. Sorry, I got lost. We were talking about workflow. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is one workflow for this particular project, because we choose to work with one vendor for most of the post-production process,
Yeah.
and only using a second vendor only for the VFX. Yeah.
Got it.
And well, and sound. Sorry, VFX and sound. But all of the workflow was doing in the same place mostly.
Hmm.
And this is just one kind of workflow. There
Yeah.
are many others, and it will depend on the specs of the studio you are working with. So what I was saying is that you beginning at the end. So this is my final delivery, and
Yeah.
UHD, HDR, production master, and SDR, well, textless, whatever. But
Yeah.
HDR, SDR, UHD. This is my final delivery. I will work all the process from the beginning, thinking of my final delivery. So when you say there is not a book about workflows, no, there is not. You start at the beginning, at the end.
At the
You
end. Yeah.
design you design the workflow from pre to post, thinking of your final delivery always. And your final delivery, it's not your archival. Final delivery, it's what you will
Delivered to the
deliver
studio. Yeah.
delivered to the studio. But there's also the archival that involves all another part of the workflow that it's also interesting and consists on keeping all your material just as was shoot, without color grading or VFX or aspect ratio transformation or zooms or resizes, nothing. Only image. And I remember they were to work as a snowflake. Yeah, really. Diego said that they are like snowflakes. It's just like that. But the rule is that you start at the end. That's the only rule. And the other rule is you never change the name of your files.
Mm-hmm.
Never,
So
ever.
naming is important.
Naming conventions are really, really important, and metadata and handling metadata, it's the main key.
Wow.
So we were saying that in pre-production, well, we were talking about relationships.
Yes.
And even if you don't think it could impact in post-production, it will. You must
Yeah.
talk with set decorators, costume designs, makeup and hair. Yeah, makeup and hair. We have brand new cameras with all this wide range, dynamic range,
Yes. Yeah.
and skin, hair, clothes, and sets are really, really important because they think that we could sometimes fix everything in post. No,
Yeah.
the colorist will take care of that.
Yeah.
No,
We have
no,
colors
it
in post.
won't.
Exactly.
Oh no, it's okay. The colorist will take care of that
Exactly.
green dress I don't want. And it's like, no.
Make it magenta. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. If you want a magenta dress, please put her a magenta dress. So a post supervisor will be kind of a pain in the ass for some parts of the team, but
Mm-hmm.
you must let them know that you are not,
Yeah.
that you are trying to bring a solution.
Yeah, because that's for the best for the project, right? You just need to do that because it's for the importance of the project. Like what Daniela Toscana just asked in the
Mhm.
chat. Um, while we're
Danny, hi
speaking,
Danny.
while we're speaking
She's
about
my
the
friend.
relationship, yeah. Thank you for asking, Danny. Let me bring her questions up. What is the most common problem you meet as a post production supervisor?
The shoot.
The shoot.
Yeah.
How like normally how much time do the post supervisor spend on set when shooting?
Well, it must spend more time than it does, because the point is that you spend sometimes months working on pre-production, on designing workflow, studying scripts, and getting all these key points we were talking about, VFX, costume.
Yeah.
You create these amazing relationships, but then when the shoot starts, it never stops.
Hmm.
And that's when people start to say, oh, we'll fix it in post. Oh, we'll fix it in post. And you say, oh, no, we have a protocol here. I made a procedures manual. Please, please
Yeah.
don't do that. And the shit doesn't stop. And the media keeps coming, and the workflow, it's going on, and everything is going on, and you can't stop it. So that's why pre-production is so important, but shoot it's more important,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
because all you design could be forgotten during the
Yeah.
shoot.
You can just design anything you want, but if you don't use it, what is the reason
Yeah,
of doing that?
and that's why I was showing you this workflow, because it's
Yeah,
gorgeous. I love this workflow. I designed it with the
yeah.
post production producer, and we were really happy about it. We sent it to the studio. The studio say, "Hey, congrats! It's a great workflow." But then, when the shoot starts,
Hmm.
half of the steps didn't happen. So
Okay. But by the way, just to out of curiosity, this is like one
yeah,
of the workflow that you designed for one of the OTT platform out there, right?
yeah,
By the way, guys, if you don't understand what OTT is, I'm sorry for throwing out like abbreviations. OTT just means like the out of over the top
over the top.
studio. Yeah,
We refer to OTTs, Netflix, Amazon, Disney, HBO, Star
HBO, yeah, stuff
Plus,
like that.
and
And while we're
yeah.
talking about OTT, Cecilia,
Mhm.
Tommy also have a questions about productions. While we're also talking about shooting, do you back up production data to the cloud, such as AWS or Azure?
Yeah, yeah, we do. We do. We have many backups. I am the one who asks for at least three,
Oh
at
wow.
least three.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you think about how much a day of shooting costs,
Yes.
and the risk of losing it just because, you know, we have a huge advantage in the digital era. We have metadata and we have backups.
Yeah.
In the when we shoot on film, we where we will back up that, we must shoot it twice. There
Yes.
was no other way. And now we have the advantage of backupping everything, so we must back up physically on writes and on the cloud also.
And while speaking about backups on the clouds,
Mhm.
Diego just point us a very nice topic is here. Questions is that when you are thinking about progress on workflow in the cloud, knowing that sometimes we have many limitations on internet access, how do you handle that?
Well, I wouldn't do a whole workflow in the cloud.
Okay,
The only thing I will do in the cloud is the last of backups, or
so
sometimes the
having
studio backup, but not
yeah,
the workflow in the cloud. I prefer servers or more stable storages in house. Maybe
yes,
the post house have one and another one in the VFX house, but not all in the cloud. Not, I mean, not right now, because as Diego was saying, most of us don't have great internet connections. We have,
yeah.
home internet connections.
I mean,
And
especially
to
if
have
you're
a
in,
whole,
yeah. Sorry.
if you have a whole workflow in the cloud, mm, right now, no. Maybe in 4 or 5 years, with a great connection. But and I mean, Blackmagic, it's now designing the cloud to and the cloud storages to work collaboratively, but they are still a little bit beta.
Yeah. Tommy just add in the chat. Would that be a backup to an S3 bucket?
What is an S3 bucket?
I think it's the S3 bucket is like one of the Amazon AWS.
Ah, I don't know,
Um,
because Amazon also has many problems
If
with
if you
with
can, yeah, Tommy, if you can like explain what an S3, that would be great. Oh, it's an AWS storage class.
yeah. Mm, they have many
Thank you, Tommy.
many problems and issues with that. So I highly recommend physical backups and the cloud only if they ask them.
So
If
like
the
cloud is only for,
studio,
yeah, for redundancy or when the
mhm,
studio asks for it.
yeah,
I
and
see.
they will ask for it, and you must have that in mind, because you will need a very robust connection and also a very secure connection.
Yeah.
And that connections most of the times are slow. And if you have to upload, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 terabytes a day, you may need 10 or 12 hours to do that by day. So these are also important points and key points on your schedule and workflow.
Tommy just
And used for
explained
storing
in the
many
chat
different.
that
Yeah,
S3, with S3 you can store all kind of things there. Well, thank you so much, Tommy.
thank you, Tommy. I don't know what there was really.
Now we know. Every day we learn, right? That's great.
So the one of the key points of all the things that we are saying,
Yes.
uh, because the question from Daniela was really interesting. What is the I mean the worst part
Yeah. The most common problem you meet
uh,
as
as
post-production
supervisor?
supervisor.
It's the shooting. So one of the key parts of the workflow, in order for the shooting to be as we design it,
Mm-hmm.
it's our tests. First of all, you must
Yes.
test everything, yeah,
Yeah.
with all the specifics that you must know first. So you must get to the shooting with all of this. You must know the specifics, yeah, in order to set up the workflow, as we were saying. So where you will be ending your broadcast, if it's cinema, if it's an OTT, and what is your ending, and the vendors, they are also very important, the vendors you are working with, also time code, frame rate, and format, codec, how many drives you will need for the shoot, who will do the sync and rushes, who will deliver the dailies, and who will put the LUTs to your material, the show LUT for
Yeah.
each day. Well, all these specifics, all this information you must gather it around the pre-production in order to get to the shooting ready, for not to stop and for fix any problem that could appear during the shooting. It was clear?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Also you must have very, very clear what your deliverables are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you need to know in right at the front if you want to deliver an HDR or SDR or anything.
Yeah.
I
See,
see.
or DCP,
I
or
see.
I don't know, maybe it's an MP4. It's okay,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to know that in order to design the
To
best
work together.
workflow for that
Yeah.
ending.
So it's always know the final goal and then work backwards, right?
Yeah, which
Got
camera,
it.
which format, which codec, which frame rate, everything it's supeditated to the ending.
Got it.
So, and
It's similar like
last,
grading
yeah,
though.
huh?
It's similar like grading. You kind of like need to know how the look going to be, like the final, and then after that you design the best uh, workflow to do that, so to say,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
it's true. And I guess my most of my background came from color grading and
Uh-huh.
working on post houses half of my life. You know,
Yes.
I I can do this and tell everything to this because I work on grading most of my life. And last but not least,
Yes.
before the shooting, it's really, really, really important to test the workflow, all the
Yeah.
round trip, all the round trip, at least 2 weeks before the shooting.
That's including testing the conforming between the NLE and then the grading platform and VFX platform.
Yeah,
I see.
in- includes everything.
Hmm. But you do that with the test footage, right? With the camera test footage, or
Yeah, in most of OTTs, they ask you for what they call the look and feel. It's
hmm
a test of ideally a scene with in a set that you will use on the shooting, and not just a camera test.
I
You know,
see. So it's the
it's
look
kind
and feel, a
kind of
couple of scenes. Yeah.
yeah, and it's called the kind of the 0 day,
Yeah.
because you go with all the crew and shot, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 shots from a scene,
Yes.
and then you test all the workflow around until the final deliverables.
Got it. Got it.
Well, once you have your test run, and I must say, many people opposed to this test, because as we were saying, people for a crew from the shooting, it's not involved with post production, so they don't care. I know it doesn't sound really well what I'm saying, but it's true.
Yeah.
They just shoot and then go to the theater to see the release of the feature film, but they don't care what happened in the middle.
And how do you manage that? How do you make
Yeah,
them care?
that's the whole point of the post producer supervisor.
Supervisor. Yeah.
we
I.
we we have to create consciousness about this, you know.
Yes.
They're not shooting on film, they're shooting digitally, and this I don't know, it's more complicated than shooting in film, I
hmm
guess.
Yes.
And they don't care much about it, so it's hard work. The pre-production is hard work, and shooting harder.
Yeah. Diego just asked in the chat, in your
Mhm.
experience, what role do soft skills and communications plays as post supervisor?
It's the most important.
Got
We
it.
have to we have to have soft skills to talk
Yeah.
with people, and let them know that we understand their work also,
Yeah.
that we understand, for example, camera crew, um, sometimes they do their tests, they run their tests with charts, and but as soon as you tell them that they must go 1 day extra for the 0 day, for the look and feel, for sending to the studio,
Yeah.
they no, they don't like it. No, it's okay, my charts are there, run your test with that. And so it's important to show them what the results would be if they don't run their tests.
Yeah. So
Mm.
it's really nice. How do you call it? Way to giving them a friendly reminder by showing by having something to show them instead of just mentioning it to them. Well,
Yeah, and that's why it's so important. The soft are so important. The soft
yeah,
skills.
yeah. It's really depend on how you present it to them, right? Cecilia,
Yeah.
we only have 7 minutes to go. So do you want to wrap up?
Well, I want to say that your best ally is the DIT.
Hmm.
Pre-productions, pre-production, soft skill, beginning on the end, and your DIT.
So the DIT is like really an asset that you really have to embrace in the project.
Yeah, the DIT is the digital imaging technician. And I know it can seem redundant because
Yeah.
why I need a post supervisor and a digital imaging technician. Well, they
Or
do to yeah.
or maybe do you also work with color scientists as well?
Yeah, I mean the DIT it's kind of a color scientist and
Mm,
also a data manager. So it's kind of an engineer,
I see. Yes.
because uh, he must handle all the metadata, all the backups, the checksums. Do you know what a checksum is?
No, could you please explain what checksum says?
Checksums are the sorry. Checksums are like the digital fingerprints of
Mm-hmm.
each file you have in OneDrive. So
Ah,
when you back up, you don't just copy and paste files from your card to your drive. You do it with a special software that
yes.
backup and checksum each file in order to be exact the same file in both
Got it.
places.
Got it.
It's the one of the safest ways to
Yeah.
do a backup.
As Tommy just pointed out, it's a hash.
It's a hash.
Yeah.
That's a hash. The
Yeah.
hash is the digital fingerprint.
I see. Cool.
And it's really important because metadata I well 5 minutes to talk about metadata, but
Yeah.
metadata it's all the information that went with that goes with a media file. There is the media, the video and audio, and there is the metadata that refers mostly to the tech specs of the camera that create that file. That's the information that it's key and vital to the whole workflow from the shoot on. And that's why your DIT is your best ally, and you must
Got it.
create the workflow with your DIT and
I
post
see.
production producer, but with your DIT. Any more questions? Because I have.
Yeah, we don't have any more questions in the chat. I think we almost hit the time, so you only have 4 more minutes. Before I wrap up the session, Cecilia,
Mhm.
do you have like final advice to our audience?
Yes, my advice is not change um, your file names, please, please, please,
Naming
never.
conventions.
Naming conventions and I have another one. Sorry, it was really long. I must shorten this.
No problem. Oh, by the way, the
Naming.
the presentations is available for download, guys. It is available in the Dropbox links in the YouTube description. So if you go to recording, there's a link to the Dropbox, and you can download the presentations that Cecilia is using today. Because in my opinion, inside the presentations, there are plenty of resources, plenty of um, knowledge to learn
Yeah,
from. Sorry.
and the blog from Frame.io, I
Yeah.
recommend it. I deeply and strongly recommend it, because it's full of much more information than this
A
about
lot of
specific,
insights. Yeah.
yeah, insights about metadata, the different stages of a project, for
Got it.
example, uh, all the sound, we left sound beside, but sound, it's a
It's
huge point, and
totally
nobody,
different beast.
yeah, nobody cares about sound, and
Yeah.
sound, it's the 50% of your
It's
movie,
halfway of
you
the
know
project. Yeah, it's half of the project. Yes.
half of your project is sound, and you must talk with your sound engineer and designer all the time, because
Cool.
most of the problems arise on the sound post production.
Got it. So,
uh,
Cecilia,
yeah.
um, thank you so much. I think we need to wrap up our session today. Um, we definitely we would love to hear about the challenging project you're working on in the future, and we definitely want to stay in touch with you. Where do we find you? Where can we follow you?
I'm at cbelliz.color grading. I will write down for you so
Dot,
you can copy.
dot color grading.
Yeah, I'm there. Or as Cecilia Belliz.
Okay.
That's me. I'm like Diego Llama. I'm like Cher.
Okay. That's really good to know.
You can write an inbox and we can discuss. I think we need like 4 sessions more to talk about post production supervising.
Yeah, definitely. This is a really vast, how do you call it, a world. And thank you
Yeah.
for giving us a small insight to this amazing world, Cecilia. And with that being said, let me just grab your screen and share my screen. Let me do the housekeeping again. So yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today, and I hope you learn a lot from Cecilia. And as I mentioned before, if you want to, you can download the presentations and study it yourself. And if you have any questions, feel free to chime it into Cecilia. Please stay in touch with her and write her anytime you have a questions about the presentations. And if you want to see any other webinar that we are hosting at Maxon Training Team, you can go to maxon.net/events, and you'll see that there are plenty of events coming up hosted by Maxon. And don't forget, if you are like very first time here in the Maxon shows, you can get a T-shirt. And if you want to, you can follow the link that you see in your screen or in the chat and use the code ZBrush and Substance to enter the shop. And by selecting one of this merchandise, you'll get a the price will be zeroed out, and you just need to pay for the shipping costs. I think previously Tommy has a issue with this, so anytime you have a issue with a shop, or do you want to, if you want to stay in touch with me, with us in the Maxon Color team, feel free to write us at maxoncolor@maxon.net. And also, this show is being recorded, and if you want to rewatch it, for sure you can. You can always go to YouTube and type in Maxon Training Team, and there you'll find all the show that is hosted here at Maxon. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. And I also would love to thank Danny, our colleague, who is
Danny.
doing the technical host right in the at the behind the screen. So thank you so much, Danny, for making sure that the show is running smoothly. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you have a really nice evening or really nice day. And thank you so much for attending the show. And we'll see each other in 2 weeks' time from now. And be safe, take care, and see you soon. Bye bye.